let's talk about the beast within. Ooh, let's go. So excited to talk about the beast within. So, we have made quite a bit of progress. I wish I could show you all the text, but I can't. But we have made significant progress with the beast within. Before, when we were designing the beast within, I wanted the choice between your humanity and your beast self to be extremely poignant as you go through advancement and leveling up. And with the original way in which we had set up the character archetypes, we had kind of, I called it like your humanoid archetype and your beast archetype. Your beast archetype is just mainly the beast form that you take, right? Are you a canine, a canis, or are you a felis? Things like that. But now, with the new structure that I have, we're going in a slightly different direction, only with the humanoid archetypes. I kind of mentioned this before, but I will go into more detail today. So before, the archetypes were based around occupation. They're based around things that the person would do in their daily lives, whether they were a healer or a fighter, etc. But I realized that I only had two options when writing it that way. I either had to make a bunch of different occupations that fit into the game design, and that could take ages and forever. The second option I had was to go, or if I wanted to stay on that route rather, I would have to make the archetypes pretty generalized that a bunch of different options could fit into them. And that kind of didn't sync well for me because I had a very specific advancement style in mind, and it was just really hard to write. And as I kind of like dwelled on this for several weeks, there was a period of time for several weeks where I just wasn't writing because I just couldn't surmount this hill. It finally dawned on me that actually I don't need occupations. What is more important is who the person is, actually. Because we're talking about choosing between your humanity versus your beast self, right? So it should be about the values you hold as a person, who you are, your personality, things like that. So that's the direction I ended up going with. So the way the archetypes are structured now, the persona archetypes, are through values and personalities instead. So for example, we have an archetype called the Indomitable, and this is an archetype that's focused on perseverance and determination. And the whole point of this archetype in terms of how it mechanically plays is, all right, you're going to be tough, you're going to be resilient, you're going to have mechanics that help you get the best out of a failure and empower you as you go through the game, right? You're there to take the L's, and L's only make you stronger. So that's the Indomitable. We also have, an archetype called the Esoteric. So this is a person who is, more mystical, who is more aligned with like occult stuff, things like that. But I left it pretty generalized so that folks can decide what being esoteric means to them. So for example, esoteric for one person could mean, yes, this person is someone who is a medium and like talks through whispers and things like that. They read tarot cards, things like that. But someone can say like, oh, I want to play someone who like can wield magic, and they're called the esoteric. Leaving things pretty broad enough, but also having a very, very specific vibe to each of the archetypes and how they mechanically play. With the Indomitable, are you focusing on physical fortitude, mental tenacity, or both? So we're probably a flavor of both. It's definitely on the level of tenacity, because we do have a different archetype. Let me see if I can find the name. We do have a different archetype that's kind of like your traditional fighter, right? We're gonna have a few of them as well. Um, like, so one of them is the fleet-footed, which is going to be someone who's like more akin to like speed and agility. I also want to create an archetype called the Guardian, which is someone who, I guess, less of a tank. Well, kind of a tank, but also more about utility. So the Guardian, for example, would be a kind of archetype you play if you want to be the one to set up your other players at the table. So this is the kind of person that would give bonuses to everyone at the table just for being within a certain range of them, or being able to intercept an attack if they were in a specific distance, or if they have wrath points to spare, things like that. With the Indomitable is less focused on like parties, I guess, and it's definitely more self. It is about your own tenacity, your own, like, so you're definitely going to be a beast of a tank, but you're not going to be a beast of a tank necessarily to like the Guardian to like protect other people. You're going to be a tank to make sure that you stay standing, right? You will take all of the hits. So for example, I would, if I were building Sayer, I'd probably give him the Indomitable, basically. Someone could take a bunch of hits and keep standing up. One of the mechanics, just to give y'all a little taste, one of the mechanics that you will get as the Indomitable is you'll get an additional point of wrath each time you fail. So instead of failing and just taking 1 point of wrath, you'll take 2. So you can use that later on to do more things. And we will talk more about what wrath means now, in contrast to what it was. So that's basically kind of like the ideas we've got for the Persona archetype. I'm still building it out right now, and I'm trying to make sure I'm covering all of my bases, covering not just all of the stats, which, to remind folks, the stats that we're using for this game. Oh, I asked because I find when people go for the Indomitable archetype, they tend to focus a lot more on physical tenacity, less on touching on mental fortitude and tenacity, because there's so many ways to be that brick wall. Oh, absolutely. There's definitely going to be a mental fortitude / tenacity. The design point that I'm in now is deciding whether I want that to be a separate, so the way that I'm envisioning the archetypes looking for advancement is that there's an ability tree of sorts, where you pick the ones you want to take. So my question is whether I want to put it on a separate branch, or if I want to put it on the same branch as the rest of the tenacity stuff. That's where I'm at right now in its design contemplation. But yes, definitely mental fortitude. This it's also about, because it's also about perseverance, right? Like the whole point of you getting an additional point of wrath is you being able to mentally find that footing within failure. Because it's not just about you knock me down, I get back up again. It is, I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to learn from this better than anyone else with regards to my failures. You could do a split tree wherein 2 major subtypes in an archetype that people can switch between or stick to. Yeah, that's one of the ways I was thinking of going. I just didn't want it to feel... my concern was only when I was like contemplating this was whether or not it would feel like beef head versus like mental stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm trying to find a better way to categorize things. So I might do like tenacity, and then have like a sub tree of like physical tenacity and then mental tenacity. That might be the best way forward, I think. And then the rest is kind of like special skills, like feats that you can have that isn't necessarily tenacity based, more about like learning from your failures based, like perseverance. That's when you just categorize a bit more broadly, intersperse both kinds in each subtree. Yeah. We're on the same page. Yep. Also, friends, I might need to take a quick bio break and a quick BRB. I have a little tummy hurt, so I will be back in the next 5 or so minutes. when we're back, we're going to talk more about Persona Archetypes. See you in a bit. Hello, everyone. It is raining, so I apologize if you hear like water against the roof. Should be able. My noise gauge should be pretty good. Thank you, Mercury, for understanding how brave I'm being right now. I feel very seen. Anyway, we're back and we're talking about Persona Archetypes. So, we left off about talking about the subtrees for like the Indomitable and some of the things that it will entail. But in summary, the way that the Persona Archetypes are working is it's going to be an ability tree. A lot of these are focused on broader values that can become extremely specialized. That was another goal that I had with making the archetypes this way, is that I wanted to give some level of customization to players and what they would like to build with their characters. Because with your werebeast archetypes, a lot of the things that you have are tied to a lot of like your beast abilities, your animalistic abilities. So there's not too much variation that you can have, while I'm trying to make it as varied as possible. So this was kind of like the opportunity to give that customization to players, to really make their werewolves their own, their were-tigers their own. So, you know, you could have a table of like 3 were-tigers or 3 werewolves, but all 3 of them are very different and work very differently from each other. Thank you for being brave. Thank you, Asra. It was a hard journey, but I am here and I'm strong, and 'tis my fate to forever be cursed with tummy hurt disease. But anyways, that is our character archetypes. I also love customization, but there's always a risk of rabbit holes and having too much customizations. Oh yeah, we're not gonna have too much. Mostly because that's a lot of writing for me. And I am the sole writer and designer of this game. And I would like this game to come out in a timely manner, so we will not be having that. But we will be having more Stairs and Pathfinder. Oh yeah. That's one thing I wanted to avoid with the Beast Within. Like, if I can put my game, or what I hope for my game, with next to another TTRPG in terms of like how they play with crunch and narrative, I think the Beast Within falls closer to something like a Cypher or a Wild Sea. That's kind of where I want to have my game sit at, because honestly, for me, the crunch is going to be how you play in combat, because I want to reward players who think really carefully about how they handle combat, but I don't want combat to be bogged down. I want it to be like, hey, you're in combat, this is a fighting game, you do one thing, that's it, right? You do one thing, you can use your abilities, you can expend points, but you gotta do it now. Like, what are you doing, right? And it's like when you're playing a fighting game, you have to decide, right? Am I going to hit? Am I going to see the opening in my opponent's block and like punish them and really go on the offensive? Am I gonna guard and find my opportunity, or like distract this person and make them waste their turns on me, because everyone can only do one thing, and make them waste their turns with me so that my party members can like reposition and do really cool things. Cypher is fun. I enjoy Cypher. My only critique of Cypher is that it is what it is, and it is a system made to be put into any genre, in any game, in any setting, right? And because it is a game made to function in any genre, in any setting, it loses specificity. It loses some nice specificity for some things. But otherwise, it's really fun. I'm having a lot of fun, like, compiling character sheets for Big Bad Con in preparation. And Cypher's pretty fun. I do enjoy it. I love running it. It's very, very nice for for running as a GM. Interesting. My camera is... There we go. That's better. I was like, I might need to move where my camera is. But yes, that is my goal with The Beast Within. Is I want it to be narrative and fiction first, but I want it to have some good, delicious reward. Like, if you find a really creative way of using your wrath points, I want you to be rewarded for it. But yeah, so that is the Persona Archetypes. We've got quite a few in here. You know, we have things like the Savant, which is an archetype that's about being able to customize from other ability trees. So as you go further down the Savant tree, you can decide to take abilities for some of the other ability trees if you want. And that's just something you can do because you're good at things. And it's very, very fun. I have my own game on the back burner still that I want to do things for, but writing is hard. So I'm curious to check out Cypher because it sounds like a similar style I want to go for. Yeah, it's a pretty good system. It is a D20 only system. Yeah, there are other die that you can use, like a D100 and D6, but those are for very specific circumstances. But for the majority, it is a D20, and your players are the ones that do the rolling. The GM doesn't roll typically, which is very fun. Amazing. We talked about Persona Archetypes. Feel free to drop any questions in the chat about Persona Archetypes if you want me to clarify on anything about how that is going to function. Now, it sounds like we gotta talk about combat, baby. Sounds like we gotta talk about combat because we kind of like touched on it a little bit, and now we can talk more about like what combat is and things like that. How does advancement happen? That is something we're still working on. I am of a few minds. I'm off a few minds of giving players just a number of points per session, or because advancement is quite difficult for me because I've always been a milestone GM. Even when I was playing D&D, I've never been like, you get this many experience points and you level up. But I think the direction that we are mostly going for, even though we haven't named it quite yet or figured out the full mechanics of it, is that we are categorizing different types of advancements, right? So, because again, I wanted to make the choice poignant between your beast self and your humanity, right? I want to make that choice very, very clear. But I also want players to feel incentivized for doing even small things with their narrative stuff, right? And not just about, let's get through this arc. So one of the things that we were thinking about was categorizing different types of progress, right? So, for example, we would have like something for small victories. So let's say you defeat a mini boss, or you clear a dungeon, or you know, it's like that kind of thing that kind of like happens, but like across a few sessions, not too many sessions, but like a handful of sessions. Like that can be a victory, like calling that a victory. So when you get a victory, that equates to a certain number of advancement points. And then you can use that and expend that on things. And then we can have something like a triumph, which is something where this is when you beat your big boss battle. This is when you like find a huge answer to something. Like this is when you make a great progress as a party and move forward, right? And then we have like something like a breakthrough, which is I'm not super into the way that we're like naming it so far, but kind of like this is where your like personal narrative arc would come in, of like I found some answers to something, or like it kind of like an Invisible Sun when you ask like, have you advanced your arc? This would be the breakthrough part would be more akin to, did you advance your own arc? So that way you kind of have like 3 advancements based on, so you have 2 that relate to like you and your party, because it's how you both are doing as a whole, and then you have 1 for like your own personal thing. So this is kind of like, it gives more incentive for like folks to kind of like go in and be like, hey, this is your arc, and like here's some stuff. If you find the thing that, you know, in the challenge of your arc, and you find an answer and you find a breakthrough, that gives you a number of experience. So this not only like incentivizes you as a player to like really hone in on what your narrative focus is, but also your party members, because your party members can help you with that and they can get points for helping you with that. So that's kind of the idea. I haven't found like the numbers yet. That's kind of like something I'm still figuring out and I'm not the strongest in. But that is kind of the direction we want to go with advancement, is categorizing the types of advancement, giving a number of points to that, and then that's how you feed the advancement. But we'll also probably pull in an optional rule for the GMs for like kind of like inspiration almost, where if you feel like your party's done like something really cool, or they had like a really resonant and powerful role-playing moment where there's like a lot of character development, that should be rewarded with experience points as well, because I think that is also equally as nice, because that's always kind of like bogged me a little bit with like D&D leveling, for example, because, you know, it's milestones, so you kind of just wait until the part of the arc where you level up. But with this, you know, in those big moments where you have a great roleplay moment and you and your party finally come together after a difficult time and are able to like find support in each other, find community in each other, find family with one another, that should be rewarded, I think. You know, you hacking into the mainframe and finding like rolling really well, expending wrath points to find like a crucial answer should give you something. Like, because I'm imagining like in a video game, you get a little XP for finding a thing, right? I'm glad you're enjoying these advancement ideas, Azra. That's very, very heartening to hear from me, because it's still like it's one of the things that I'm like still figuring out. It's still very much in the, here's a big board, here are some ideas. The shape is finally like showing itself, but the actual kind of like string that ties everything together is still eluding us, and it'll happen. It will happen, and when it happens, it's going to be neat and cool, and I'm so excited. Yeah, having a boon of some kind. It's because, you know, that's something that you got to think of in game design, right? You got to reward players for doing things, because otherwise, why should they do it, right? Like I said, I'm workshopping my own games. So I thought a lot about this in broad strokes, so it's nice to see what others are cooking up. Oh yeah, advancement is the thing about advancement. What I've noticed is that you'll see a lot of kind of like either points expenditure, narrative stuff, or like milestone sort of situations. You mentioned Invisible Sun, and that reminded me of the relationship ties in the game. Could even add something like those ties between players to check in on milestones. You have walked into a very, very interesting idea I've had for several months, Mercury. One of the ideas I've had for several months, and I haven't decided yet if I want this to be a general advancement thing or something specific. But one of the main critiques that I've seen online about like games and game design in TTRPGs is about how TTRPG rulebooks don't actually talk about what it takes to build a table, and what it takes to build table chemistry, and how do you create characters that sync up well with other player characters at the table. Like, I off the top of my head, cannot think of any off the top of my head other than like maybe Invisible Sun. Because they ask you multiple times about that. But they don't tell you how, they just tell you to do it, right? They tell you to do it, not how to do it, right? And part of me was thinking like, yeah, but the thing is like, on the GM side of it, right? It is, that's like an additional thing you need to be like monitoring, right? Which is a lot of work on the GM. Because I've been that GM where I'm like, okay, we need to talk about this, but I probably need to plan a separate session for that, you know, and it's an additional thing that I have to like think about. So one of the things I was thinking about was having ways for y'all to levy party bonds and progress in that way, and those so the first idea of it relating to general advancement, that you can use those points and then advance either your humanity or your beast self, or get what do you call it, I had a third option for something that you could get, but I haven't named it yet, but basically getting fun little feats and abilities, right? The other thing is that I was potentially thinking about was that you can get specific bonuses or specific abilities from advancing a type of relationship, kind of similar to that of Glitter Hearts. In Glitter Hearts, you that's another game that tells you to build relationships, but all they really tell you to do is you should have this type of like positive relationship and maybe this type of antagonistic relationship with like you and your party members to keep things balanced, right? Because I think it's like friends and rivals is what it's called. And I was thinking of doing something like similar, of like categorizing types of relationships, and within that category of relationships, give y'all cool abilities. So if you advance it, you can find cool things. That might so that is an option I have been thinking about. It is something that's percolating in my brain. It might be, the more likely thing that's going to be is that it's going to be a supplement. I think the relation, because there's already a lot in this RPG, but that's definitely something I'm thinking about for at least a supplement. Because I'm thinking like, if you have a rival, like a type of rival relationship, and in true anime and like fighting game fashion, one of the abilities is that you have a really, really sick combo that you can pull with each other and only with each other. That way your relationship feels very unique, right? So that's something that's been percolating in my brain. Mercury, you've inadvertently stumbled into something that I've been like thinking about for months now. So good to know that y'all are into that stuff, because like it's nice to see that stuff that I'm like instinctually thinking about being like something that folks are thinking about as well, and that interests them as players, because that means I understand game design and I am making progress. Amazing. Feel free to ask any more questions in chat as we talk about combat. We're not going to get too much into combat, but what I am going to say is kind of like the general ideas of what we have got going for combat. And it is very much surrounding doing one significant thing. And you have a few options of what that kind of combat is going to look like. You can either attack, you can guard, you can use an ability that you have within your beast self or your persona archetypes, or you can and part of what you choose to do is your movement. I don't feel like policing how you move, but you can move up to a certain distance each turn, so do not worry too much about that. And so that's the long and short of it, of how combat is going to function. We will be using kind of very generalized ideas of distance. We are going to talk about like what is in melee, what is considered near, what is distanced, what is far away, things like that. It's going to be very, very general terms, very similar to IS Cypher in that sense. And with damage, we are still figuring out the damage wheel, but we do want folks to be able to sustain more damage, but we also do not want to kind of do the typical HP system. We might do something more akin to like a lot of PBTA games, a lot kind of like Cypher, kind of like IS, where we have a wheel. You take a certain amount, it becomes this. If you take too many of the second ring, you get closer and closer to being knocked out, which is a status condition. And we'll talk about that in a second. But that's kind of how we are imagining damage right now. We really want to reward really, really good combat and dishing out some attacks and damage, but we don't want to be spending so much time with like, what do you call it, like HP bars and like HP numbers, because that's one of the things that like makes combat drag on for a long time, is that, you know, everyone takes a turn and you're like, all right, I have to do math over here, let's count everything. I want it to be kind of like very instinctual, like, okay, you've dealt this amount of damage, ooh, this person's looking really wounded, like, where do we go from here? Things like that. And also kind of like, one of the things I wanted to make sure to do in this combat is maintaining the tensions of a combat without having everything to kind of like, because a lot of TTRPGs, whenever you enter combat, you see that's the way they phrase it, right? You enter combat, you enter initiative, right? We enter an action phase, and it that kind of wording insinuates that you can only do certain kinds of things inside of that phase or inside of that combat, whereas I want it to be a little bit realistic in the sense of, you can be in combat, you can be attacking people, but like at some point the NPC or the villain is going to like find alternative ways if they're not winning in that scenario, right? They might try to run, they might try to negotiate and things like that, and we can like still move within that high tension, but not every, because like especially D&D does this, especially where it's like, okay, you're in initiative, so like or like you are attacking these people, which means certain ways of reasoning with them is now no longer applicable, right? You can't do a lot of the things that you want to do, right? Because you're in initiative and now you have to wait a whole turn before you get your turn back. So kind of like almost like very, very inspired by Wild Sea, of like, do something significant and see, and we can like percolate on what that means. So that's the long and short of combat in terms of like actions. One thing I did want to bring up as part of combat is our updated list of status conditions that we have got going on. So here are some of the status conditions that we have so far. We have bewildered, which is kind of similar to being in a daze or confused. Usually this status condition would work if you've taken a significant hit, or there are some abilities like the Chiroptera, the bat werebeast, where there's a shriek involved in the ability, which can bewilder some folks. So that's one of the status conditions. We have staggered, which is an opponent who has been weakened or is left vulnerable to attacks. So this staggered is something that would happen if you were to crit. For example, if you were to crit, you would deal damage and you would also stagger your foe, leaving the opportunity for yet another hit by you or a hit by other people. And you can just kind of like really push forward that amount of damage that you want to deal out, or really corner your opponent in that regard. And an opponent that's staggered would also have some of their action economy reduced. We have restrained. Of course, we have to have something about restraining. And this is when an opponent is bound, held down, or restricted in their movements in some way. This is, as it says, this usually means that you're holding this person. They will have an opportunity to try and get out of this anytime it's their turn. Or they could just choose to hit you while being restrained. Things like that. Kind of similar to D&D's grapple rules. We have downed. So this is when you've been knocked to the ground. You've been knocked to the ground, and that leaves you in a vulnerable position to be attacked. And of course, we mentioned this before, we have the status condition knocked out. This is similar to being unconscious. The way that we're going to be dealing with death in this game is I am going to take something very, very similar to the Wild Seas approach of death happens when everyone is comfortable and okay at the table, because that has always been my philosophy. I don't unilaterally kill my players. It's something that we talk about, and we especially talk about during session zeros. But knocked out essentially means that all of your damage tracks in your wheel have been ticked or marked off, and therefore, because it's been marked off, you are knocked out. You're unconscious. We have I want some level of like having a target's vision obscured, but I'm trying to find better words than blinded, because of like connotations of what that means. So I'm gonna have to like talk to some sensitivity consultants about that. But there's definitely gonna be a serious condition about having your vision obscured. And we have two very, very new ones that I'm very, very excited to share with you all. One is terrified. And this is where, you know, if you attempt to intimidate somebody or like try to use your size to kind of ward them away from attacking folks, that is similar to a frightened condition. The way I'm going to try and write it is to not feel like, okay, you're compelled to run away, but more like they probably are hesitant. So we'll play more with hesitance there. We'll probably give them maybe a debuff to their roll, and kind of like give an incentive to move away, things like that. That way, even if the player is in the frightened condition or in a terrified condition, they have an option of what they want to do. Because that's what's always frustrated me in D&D, is that I'm like, okay, I'm frightened, and my real option right now is either hit someone else or like back away and run away. And there isn't a lot of like drama to it. It's very hard to. A lot of folks don't know how to play into the frightened condition very well, because it's hard. So that's something I want to fix and try and play into more with this condition. And finally, one of the conditions I am so excited to talk to you all about is threatened. This is very, very inspired by one of the status conditions in Final Fantasy, specifically Final Fantasy X, where you can use an ability that only one of the characters has. Orin, he has the ability Threaten. And if you use that ability, if the target falls prey to it, they basically they only focus on you. They don't attack anyone else because they're feeling threatened by you. And the way I want to use this is to have the target pinned and faced with a difficult choice. So this is where the narrative stuff comes out. So, for example, if you, the player, were threatened, I would give you a difficult choice between, depending on the scenario of what that is, right? Like, do you lose something, or do you have to choose between doing this one thing or this other thing? But things like that. It's like, what do you do when you are feeling threatened, right? And that's where the narrative boom comes in. I haven't filled out the mechanics of too many of these things yet, but they are written out, and we will be playing around with that. I'm so glad you like that, Azra. I was really, really excited when I was playing Final Fantasy X, and I was like, friend, it's kind of a fun condition actually for a fighting game. What do you do when you're threatened, right? What weakness do you let slip? What fear do you allow to bubble to the surface? Right? What anxiety do you have in this moment? Things like that. Because it's just... Because even then, that is... And, like, that would probably give... Who do you turn to? Yeah. Who do you turn to? Like, and I will probably give an actual mechanical benefit to it as well, of, like, maybe the person who is threatening gets a bonus to whatever roll they attempt next. Either a bonus or, like, advantage or something like that, based out of the answer you give them. That's another thing that I will probably highlight as well in writing the rules, is that, like, give the bonus, but also, like, GMs, if you see that a player is being very, very creative in the way that they're using another player's answer or the BBEG's answer, like, reward that as well. Like, give wrath or something to reward them for playing into the narrative and for playing into the fiction of what they're being presented with. So, for example, if this is between a villain and a PC, and the villain uses threatened on the PC, sorry, no, the other way around. The PC uses threatened on the villain, and the villain says something very, very specific about what weakness do they show, and your player feeds into that, they should be rewarded for it. And that is status conditions. Very exciting. Now we get to talk about the next thing, which I kind of alluded to quite a bit, but we're going to talk a little bit more about it because it is kind of related to status conditions, and that is combos. One of the things I wanted to have in this game that make it feel like a fighting game is having combos, whether it's combos with your friends or just combos with yourself. It's fine. So this combo mechanic will typically only trigger if you critically succeed. That's when you roll a natural 12 on your D12. And as a part of that combo, you will deal additional damage to your target, and you can choose to inflict one of a list of status conditions at the end of your combo. So this is your base combo. This is like, hi Val, I crit on this ability. That means I get a combo, right? And I'm like, yeah, you do. And then you can just beat the shit out of this person and inflict one of these status conditions, and then tell me what that looks like. But you can also use that critical success to chain your combo with your allies. And we're going to have a list of combos that y'all can choose from. But I'll probably write a rule in there of, like, it doesn't have to be reduced to these. These are just kind of like examples that you can use. So you're not sitting there being like, you can just choose one of these. But if you and your friend and your fellow PC at the table are feeling especially creative, negotiate it with your DM. Figure out what the effects and impact is going to be for that attack, and decide that together. One of the combos is Scylla and Charybdis, which is kind of making your opponent choose, essentially, between being bitten or like being fucked up by one of you or the other. Is one of the chaining of the combo. So you're putting your opponent between a rock and a hard place, quite literally. We're gonna have a kind of like an alley-oop sort of situation where you can maybe someone can either vault you up, kind of similar to Sayer and Sing, like someone vaults you up and then they hit someone, or you can like spin in place and launch someone forward, things like that, that kind of make the chaining the combos really, really fun. Love that name reference and whole thing. I thought you might enjoy that. But it was something that it was a name that when I came up with it for a combo, I was like, this is good. We should reference this. This is really good. We'll keep this. And yeah, so that's combos. We're gonna have that. Who, me? Enjoy Greek references? Never. Listen, you're so valid. You are so valid. Don't you worry. But yeah, that is essentially what I wanted to update you all on combat. It is one of the areas that I've only semi-written because I've kind of been focusing on finishing out character gen stuff, at least like the first tier of abilities for character gen, just so we can make our time of at least having a quick start guide out by December. So yeah, we are gonna be working through all of this, and it's only gonna get better with every new State of the Beast within we put out. And I'm real thirsty, so I'm gonna drink some water while y'all can tell me if y'all have questions. So I missed the action bit. It's a one action economy. Do you have an initiative system, or are you looking at something more fluid? So I'm about to say something very, very controversial yet very, very brave. I think initiative is sometimes not fun, especially when the narrative would make it seem that someone else should be acting first. But I also think that not having a structure makes it difficult for people to play your game. It is something I've experienced quite a bit, especially with like games like Quest, or even Wildsea. Like, the good thing about Wildsea is Connie is an exceptional GM, and Connie is always so hyper aware about spotlighting players. So we never run into this issue when Connie runs Wildsea. But I remember reading the Wildsea game and going, huh, I see how you're writing like focus, because that's what they call it in Wildsea, is focus. So instead of like initiative, you think about how much focus you're giving each of these players. And I remember reading that and going, oh, that would be hell for me to run. Like, I think I would just try and follow my gut and spotlight my players. So that's the thing, right? You need to have, so basically, this is a long way of answering your question. So basically, after like thinking about it for a long time, I want to settle between having a system but not having something that's too fluid. I would completely forget that enemies have moves in that case. Exactly, right? If you're too focused on how you're focusing your players, it's really, really hard to kind of like also include the amount of enemies that you have going on there. So this is, again, I haven't written out full mechanics for this yet, but the spirit of the rule that I want to write for initiative is having the GM decide like what constitutes the initiative, right? So for example, if you have split the party and one of you motherfuckers is left the party, you enter a room of a dungeon and you're surrounded by people, right? You're like, well, I sure did walk into an open door in a dungeon and I'm surrounded by mummies now. Like, I'm surrounded by zombies. What do I do here? It makes sense that the person who walked into that room to be at the top of the initiative, I think. You know? Because that makes sense. Because they entered the room. You know? And then maybe having the rest of the party roll like agility to see who can enter the room first. That's fair. So that's pretty simple initiative rules, right? If your players are ambushing someone, right? Then and they're trying to decide who goes first as they ambush this person, right? I would say as a GM, I would make them either roll agility, use their agility bonus to see how fast they come out of stealth and enact their vengeance upon these people. I would also even say gravitas, because gravitas is about knowing the impact of your presence and understanding how you move between space and like charm and influence and things like that. So I would have people roll gravitas. So whoever rolls higher has a better understanding of how they're coming out of stealth. Or if you wanted, I don't recommend doing the reverse. That might just make it really confusing. But whoever rolls higher can go first, and whoever rolls lower can come in after that. Because maybe they're not as effective at picking the right opportunity to intervene. And you, the GM, can set a number in your head of like, okay, this person rolled this. I think the people they're ambushing would be aware by this point that they've been attacked. Because I think by the third person stabbing someone, you would realize you're being ambushed. So still bringing in that fiction, that narrative into your mechanic. I wholeheartedly agree that some structure needs to exist for order of operations of combat, but I do like when that can change during combat to give it more a live feel, that things can change on a turn of a dime. Oh yeah, that's for sure. That's one of the things I was probably going to write into the rules, is that this is how you start. How initiative flows afterwards, you should allow your players to be able to hold their actions or help someone and let them play around. But this is how you start. Because I think once you get into it, it's easier to slip into the alive, like you said, the alive feel of combat where things can turn on a dime, right? And you know, like every like combat, your bosses are going to have fun little abilities that will change the way that the action economy in combat is going to work, or the order of things or the speed of things that they can do. Like for example, what some of the higher level boys in my game are probably going to be able to dole out more things in a turn than everyone else, right? Which means, okay, the rest of us need to like team up more and set each other up a lot more, things like that. Or like, you know, if the tank rolls shit in the like stealthing bit before, sorry, what they can do in combat now is, okay, I see that this combat has changed, I would like to go first, right? And then allow that to happen. But again, keeping in mind the fiction and the narrative that's being driven in a story. But yeah, that's a really good question, Oscar. Thank you for asking that. Amazing. And we're doing really good on time as well. We're doing really neat on time. Really, really neat on time. Amazing. And with that, let's go to our next main segment of this system and the state of the beast within. We're going to be talking about wrath and the wrath mechanic. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, or maybe have forgotten since the last time we've spoken about wrath, wrath is a specific mechanic here in the Beast Within that allows you to fail forward, because failure is not the end in the Beast Within. There are lessons, there are opportunities that people can find in failure, and wrath to be doled out in the face of it. And so basically, wrath is going to be an expendable token that you can use to exchange to either gain narrative or mechanical boons as a player. This allows you to fail upwards and also be able to kind of like within the narrative as your player, as your character, find the silver lining within failure to find purpose, growth, empowerment from your character's failures. I wanted, because there are some systems out there where you fail and it freaking sucks, right? It just sucks. It's just bad, right? And that's not fun. But I wanted to make failure kind of fun in this in this system, where if you fail, you get these fun token, and you can use it to feel things. One of the rules that I'm not sure if it'll stay, we will see how playtests go, but you can also not only fail to overcome your roll and you can get wrath, but you can also choose to fail for narrative purposes to tell your GM why you failed for narrative purposes, and you can gain more points in your pool. One of the rules that I will see how playtest goes is this one, which is your wrath pool will empty at the end of the session. So don't be. I mainly put this just so that people don't just hoard wrath points. I want people to use them. So use them and find the narrative in that moment, right? Before, the way that wrath was structured. Well, hoarding is fun. I mean, you can hoard till the end of the session. You can see how many wrath tokens you have. Hi, Stray Toads. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Did you say hi before and I missed it? I'm so sorry if I did. Hi, Stray Toads. Have fun at work. It's nice to see you. All right. It's nice to see you, Stray Toads. No, you didn't say hi before. Oh, okay. I was like, oh my god, did I miss a chat? Okay, no, that's good to know. Have a good day at work. The way wrath functioned before was, I was admittedly quite short-sighted. When I first designed the wrath, I had like a separate table for mechanical boons and a separate table for narrative boons. And then I realized I said a whole lot of nothing with so many words and so many tables. And then I realized, you know what? Let's just make it simple. Let's just make it simple. So here are some of the things you can use wrath for. You can gain a +1 to a roll. You can use it as a reroll. You can exchange wrath to use a combo. You can use wrath to recover spirit. Spirit, as we've chatted about before, is the mechanic that allows you to transform into your werebeast form. The higher your spirit, the more times you can transform, and the more times you can use special werebeast abilities. You can use wrath to endure a deadly blow. You can also use wrath to receive a cryptic GM omen. And you can also use wrath to recover from a status condition. So these are things that you can use with your wrath. This is a new direction that we are going into. One of the things I forgot to write in here is that you can also spend wrath to have flair. So this is basically what flair means in Beast Within is flavor. Like, you want to flavor your move a little bit, or you want like a very, very specific outcome, right? Because, for example, when I play Sayer in the Chaos Protocol, yes, I'm tanking, but I'm tanking for the distinct purpose of finding an opening, right, as a player. But some people play tanking for the sole purpose of just drawing attention, right? Those are two different styles of play, two different styles of how that one action of tanking manifests. So flair is a way for you to like clarify to your GM, actually, I'm spending a wrath to ensure at the very least I find this, right? So for example, if I were playing Sayer in this system, and I am tanking and I'm trying to find an opening. Let's say I fail my roll to tank fully, but I spend a wrath. I'm like, actually, GM, I want to spend my wrath points. I want to gain a flare. I want to specifically find an opening. That was why I was tanking. Let me at least get that, even if I still take too much damage. And then your GM is like, all right, you do find an opening. It's this person. This is this character's weakness, Sayer. Now, but you will take this amount of damage in exchange because you failed your roll. but at the very least you maintain some impact of your choice. So that's what I mean by flair. You like all the utility options given? Thank you, because I was reading this a few weeks ago when I was writing this up. I was reading it and I was like, I'm just really saying a whole lot of nothing. And I'm not like self-deprecating. Like that was just me like critiquing my own writing in this particular chapter, and I was like, I'm saying a lot of words, but I know for a fact if I know what I'm saying because I'm the one writing this, right? But I can see a world and many worlds where would-be players and GMs are going to read this and they're not going to know what on earth I'm talking about. And like, even though I have these tables, this tells them nothing about how to use this. If I just have a list, this is easier. A list, and here's how many points would equate to all of those things, right? So that is Wrath. Another thing that I'm going to mention in terms of mechanics for Wrath is that I am going to have I'm planning to have feats of some sort. I think I'm going to call that adaptations. So this is something you can also spend your advancement towards to get specific adaptations. One of those adaptations is Enhanced Wrath. And what that is going to be is, I haven't decided the full mechanics yet, but this can be getting additional benefits, spicier ones, some that kind of are a monkey's paw, things like that, but are really, really cool. But also probably means that you'll be able to retain some of the number of wrath points that you get at the end of the session and bring it on to a future session. So that's like an adaptation you could have. Things like that. Another thing that I was thinking about after watching Mentopolis. So I was watching Mentopolis, and in Mentopolis Dimension 20, they're using the Kids on Bikes system. And one of the things that I noticed that they were doing in the structure of the game is they have a thing called pressure. I don't know if this is a Kids on Bike. I haven't played Kids on Bikes. I don't know if this is specifically a Kids on Bikes game system or mechanic, or if it is a Mentopolis like homebrewed thing. But basically, as the pressure increases, the amount of points needed to spend on things moves up. That's something I'm toying with. I think that can be really, really fun. But I think that is probably going to be something that I will say will only be applicable in like really difficult circumstances, like situations of really, really high intense drama, or for higher levels, just to keep things fair. And yeah, that is Wrath. Let me know if you all have any questions on Wrath. I'm gonna see if there's anything else I have to chat with y'all about for this State of the Beast Within. But I think that's about it. This wasn't meant to be a super long stream. But that is basically my my structure so far. I mean, I will release that later, actually. There's something else I could show y'all, but I think I'll release it later. Hee hee. Villainous game designer, hee hee. It's pinging me, lots of people. But yeah, that is all of my updates that I have for y'all. Feel free to ask any questions in chat while I take a sip of water. Take a sip of water. Oh yes, I remember what I was going to chat with y'all about. I was going to chat with y'all about Big Bat Con. Give me 2 seconds to show y'all what I wanted to talk about. But basically, another thing I wanted to talk to y'all about was about what I'm doing in Big Bat Con with the Beast Within. Right? because that's a huge thing that I'm doing, admittedly, for Big Bad Con. And basically, what I wanted to chat about is that I will be running a Beast Within game. Hopefully, I'll be running it. I have a game menu. I'll be running 2 games for Games on Demand. Well, it's basically 1 game for 4 hours, but the players get to choose between one or the other. I'm either going to be running a Beast Within game or a Cypher System game. I'm really hoping to run the Beast Within game. It is called The Rise of Rahu. And The Rise of Rahu is my original adventure for the Beast Within. It won't be made available immediately upon release, but it is an aspect of the game that I'm playtesting. Hold on, I'm just opening this image so that y'all can see it. Of course, my window capture doesn't work immediately. Come on. So this is The Rise of Rahu. It is a werebeast versus kaiju. It's werebeast versus kaiju. What else can I say about it? It's werebeast versus kaiju. It is a really, really exciting adventure that I'm running. And this is going to be a future supplement that I'm going to have for the Beast Within. It is going to be an adventure supplement. It is going to be also a lore supplement. So this is I'm basically be like, it'd be the equivalent of releasing like Theros, right? Like in D&D, it's like releasing Theros. It's like releasing like Dragonlance, something like that, where I'm giving you not just like this adventure for a one shot or to start off a one shot, but I'm going to give y'all like lore on kaiju. I'm going to be hiring writers of diverse backgrounds to build and design different types of kaiju and different types of beasts and creatures to populate this world. I'm going to be calling some writers to help me write the lore of the world, the lore of how things work, and also I will be designing optional rules for different types of like werebeast combat. So what does big werebeast combat look like? What does mech werebeast combat look like? Things like that. So we'll have optional rules in that sense. So that's one of the main things that I wanted to mention that I'll be doing at Big Bad Con. What I do want to say is there is also the option to be able to play this even though y'all might not be in Big Bad Con, and that is through the playtesting. The Beast Within playtest interest form is now live. We've got 10 responses so far. Oh my goodness. It is so nice to see. Very, very exciting. But I am... Hold on. Where's my link? Can I have my link, please? Thank you. There we go. There's my link. Oh. I might have to cut that section out because I realized I was sharing my screen. My apologies. Let me take that again for the YouTube recording. So for those of y'all who do not get the chance to play this in Big Bad Con, y'all will have the opportunity to be able to play this as a playtest. If you are a part of my Discord, here's a reminder to join my Discord. We will be having this form pinned in chat, and you'll be able to sign up for playtesting. And based on folks' availability, you might get a chance to play some options of the Rise of Rahu, even if it's just like testing out base mechanics, but under the backdrop of a werebeast versus kaiju storyline. So that is the stuff that I wanted to announce and wanted to bring up. I am super excited about that. Super excited about that. I'm also really excited for a playtest. I'll probably be getting back to folks while I'm in stateside, because I'm still planning on doing some work while I'm in stateside. But that's probably when I'm gonna start like compiling groups together and like emailing all of y'all. So keep an eye on your emails. In October especially, because I want to do some playtests of The Beast Within and hear some feedback. But yeah, this is very, very exciting. I have plans. I have so many plans for supplements. I've already started kind of like reaching out to folks to see who's interested in some of the cool stuff we've got going on in the back burner. But yeah, I'm really, really excited for more Beast Within, just generally more Beast Within content for everybody and everyone, because I'm really, really excited to showcase this game. I'm also one of the things I'm doing in Big Bad Con is I'm going to be networking, or attempting to network with a bunch of folks in the TTRPG space, and I'm going to be talking a lot about the Beast Within. Because as you all know, I have huge dreams about getting a print run of this game, getting paid money regularly outside of like crowdfunding for like supplements and things like that. So that is one of the main like things I'm hoping to like network with folks about. It's not only network and find more writers and folks that are that are interested in like collaborating in a project like this, but also finding opportunities to, and not even if I don't find the opportunity then, to learn about what it takes to get like a print run of your game out, what it takes to get a game of yours like this to kind of like be printed and published. What are folks looking for, and things like that, and to see if this is a thing that folks in the space and in the market want. Because I think this is something that people in the market want. I don't see a lot of games about werebeasts that aren't just, oh, werebeasts are sort of a part of our game, or oh yeah, okay, werewolves. You know, I wanted to have an actual game for the folks who want to play as werebeasts and all of the complications and the dynamics that entails. I am most interested in collaborating more on TTRPG projects. I don't have all the bandwidth I wish, but I really do need to get back to TTRPG work again. But I won't be a big bad this year. I will be reporting back. Don't you worry. I will be reporting back. Like I said, I'm going to try and I'm gonna try and talk, not talk, sorry, film, like my thoughts. One of the things that I'm going to do while I'm at Big Bad is, this is my goal. We'll see if I'll be able to achieve it. Thank you, Azra. Thank you for wishing me luck on networking. One of the things that I'm hoping to do in terms of like content creation while I'm there is I want to film more like videos of me kind of just like almost like vlogging, but vlogging on like TikTok or something like that. Something shorter, not super long, but like at the end of the day of like, so for example, my hair is doing something weird again. So for example, when we sorry, my hair is distracting me. There you go, that's better. Well, not really. This hair is still doing something very interesting, but alas, poor Yorick. One of the things I was thinking of doing is like at the end of each like Big Bad Con day, I can like open up my phone, do a quick recording of like, hey, I'm doing this. This is very, very fun. Or even at like each section of the con, you know, for like opening to like going into events after that. I'm like, hey, I'm panel room hosting. This is what panels are looking like. We're having a lot of fun. Obviously asking consent of everybody there to be filmed. I'm not gonna film without people's consent. But also like when I get set up for games on demand, they tell us to be there like 10 minutes early. I might be there like 20 minutes earlier just to make a little video and be like, hi everyone, this is what it looks like to set up for games on demand for Big Bad Con and playing in person. And then I show how I'm setting up my game, how I'm setting up the table, things like that. And I'm very, very excited. And then I can also like do one after networking where I'm like, hey, I just got back from networking. I chatted with these folks. This is what I've learned. This is what I achieved, what I didn't achieve. And just having fun with it. So excited. I'm counting down the days. We are, God, for me it's Friday. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 days left. 4 days left before I fly off on Wednesday. Because I fly on Wednesday and I arrive on Wednesday. Time is weird that way. Time zones. Can't wait to see what's in the store. I'm so excited. Thank you, Asra. I can't wait to report back. I'm gonna try and be like active on Discord as well and be like, this is what's happening. Here is update. Here's a picture of my face. Here's a picture of my face as we're going through things. But yeah, that's about it for today, y'all. That's about all I wanted to talk about and announce to y'all so much for being here for our second episode of The Beast Within. The State of Beast Within, rather. I have been Valiant Doran. I use him, his pronouns. Thank you for being here. I can't wait to showcase more of what we have in store and all the cool mechanics that we've got going on right now.